So this past week, Carmelo Anthony and Giannis Antetokounmpo won the NBA Player of the Week for the week of December 2nd and, the week prior. And I'm sure if you clicked on this video, you have probably heard many analysts saying that Carmelo Anthony does not deserve to win Player of the Week. And you know what's really funny about that? Those same exact analysts will not be able to tell you who won Player of the Week before, and the week prior, and the week prior to that, and the week prior to that. But luckily for you, I'm not your typical analyst. I'm Theflightmike. So before we get to that, guys, before we get to this entire video, I'm going to briefly be real with y'all. Guys, I'm sure a lot of you guys know what's going on with the NBA YouTube community. I've come under a lot of copyright claims, about 100 of them. And it sucks. It pretty much means that all the hard work I'm putting in for making content for you guys, I'm not going to end up getting paid for. I do have a plan B. I'm still going to be uploading content to this channel, so make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications, but I don't think I'm going to be uploading to this channel nearly as much as I used to. Instead, every video that gets claimed, I'm going to throw onto IGTV, and I'm going to also have some Patreon exclusives for those of you guys that want to support me on Patreon. I'm going to leave a link to both of those in the description down below. Now let's get to this bit on Carmelo Anthony, yo. So the first thing we need to talk about is we need to dispel this entire notion that Carmelo Anthony did not deserve to win Player of the Week. Because I'm going to tell you who won Player of the Week last week in the West. Luka Doncic. The week before, James Harden. The week before, James Harden again. You guys see where I'm going with this? I understand James Harden had a 60-point game in 3 quarters, and he was about to go off, and it was going to be really sick if he broke Kobe Bryant's record. But the fact of the matter is, the Player of the Week isn't some sort of AI-generated player. It's voted upon by specific members of a committee. And after a while, voter fatigue does settle in. It's kind of like the same story where you remember when in Derrick Rose's sophomore year, when he won the MVP, he didn't deserve the MVP. Out of all players, he didn't deserve the MVP. He wasn't the most valuable player in the league that year. That was LeBron James. As a matter of fact, LeBron James, you could make an argument for winning MVP multiple years that he didn't. Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double 2 additional years after his first year winning an MVP. He could have theoretically won MVP those additional 2 more years because that's a crazy statistical achievement. But at the end of the day, voter fatigue is a very real thing. And of course, I don't think what Carmelo Anthony did was that spectacular. Yes, he came back, and I'm so happy that he's rebooting his career. And we're going to get to how he's revitalizing his career in just a moment. But at the same time, I'm a huge fan of his. You have to understand that the NBA will always prioritize the best story. Derrick Rose winning the MVP in his sophomore year was an incredible story. It melted our hearts whenever he gave that crazy speech saying, "Why not me? Why can't I be MVP?" to win the youngest MVP in NBA history. The NBA just wants a great story. Russell Westbrook winning the MVP, going on this crazy revenge tour once he felt backstabbed and betrayed by Kevin Durant, leaving the OKC Thunder. That's what the NBA is looking for. So Carmelo Anthony coming back, and at first he was playing a little bit meh, but after a while he gets his team on this 3-game win streak, wins 3 games in a row, averaging 22 points, something like 8 rebounds, and now he's averaging 17.7 points per game to go with 2 assists. Not to mention his field goal percentage is significantly improved. The last time he was in the league when he was playing with Houston, it was a 40%. Now it's at a 46%. So he's playing significantly better. It's a good story, and that is why he won Player of the Week. I just had to dispel that notion. Now we need to discuss why he's playing so much better, and it's very simple. I know a lot of you guys have been really coming hard at me for being one of Carmelo Anthony's harshest critics, but You guys have to understand, it's my job to remain objective. I'm a diehard Melo fan. I have his jersey from Denver. I've been following his career since he was in Syracuse as a 10-year-old boy. When I was a 10-year-old boy, I grew up watching this guy, and without a doubt, he's one of the greatest scorers of all time, and no doubt a Hall of Famer in the future, whether he finishes his career with a championship or not. But what you have to understand is, at the time Melo was trying to make his comeback, it made no sense. The narrative about him was that he just simply is not able to catch up to the league in front of him. As time progressed forward, he got older. The game that he was playing was outdated. He played a type of game that would take his offense out of rhythm. He would not get his teammates involved. You would pass it to Melo, and he would sit there. He would isolate. He would literally hold on to the ball for 3 seconds before deciding what to do, and then he would dribble a couple times and hoist up a shot that was probably contested and a low percentage shot, but when it went in, it looked really cool, and it would go in more times than not. But regardless, it's a low percentage shot in today's NBA, and it was an acceptable percentage shot in yesterday's NBA. And as a result, no team wanted a player that, one, was a defensive liability, and two, would just take the entire offense out of rhythm while still living in this false reality and deluding himself into believing that he was still a star in today's NBA. But it seems to me that that's changed, and when you look at Carmelo Anthony's game, the very first thing that you could see that he's absolutely attempting to do is maintain the same type of style of play in today's NBA. And I didn't think he was capable of doing this because he was 35 years old. The popular thing I was saying is, even if he does understand it at this point, it's way too late. He's 35. What are you going to get? 1 or 2 good years out of him? But no, he actually seems to understand the way he has to play. He's playing meaningful minutes and he's making the most out of them, averaging 31 minutes per game throughout 6 games for Portland so far. And I understand that the Portland Trail Blazers didn't really play anyone that spectacular during this past week. Their wins came against Chicago, OKC, and Chicago, which, by the way, I got to make a video on Chicago in of itself because I'm really seeing some great progression from that team. But look at the way Melo finished in those games. He finished plus 19 in his first game against Chicago, plus 27 in his second game against Chicago, and plus 10 in his final game against Chicago. So it appears to me that Carmelo Anthony's finally turning a corner. But there's still one part of Carmelo Anthony's game that I still think is going to be a huge liability from here on until the end of his career, and that's defense. If you look at his defensive box plus minus, he is so far a minus 2.2 for the Portland Trail Blazers, and I don't think defense is going to be in Portland's identity. Joseph Nurkic is out for the entire year, and at this point, it seems to me that the Portland Trail Blazers can only win games if they absolutely just outshoot and outscore whoever they go up against. And I know that's how you win games typically, but you know what I'm trying to say is the same way the Houston Rockets have been winning games, not really putting that much effort in the defensive side of the ball and only placing an emphasis on the offensive side of the ball. But the fact still remains that Carmelo Anthony is finally buying into today's NBA. He's not holding on to the ball anymore. He's literally, if you watch him play, he either attacks the basket immediately or he passes the ball immediately. He doesn't hold on to the ball and take the entire offense out of rhythm, and that's really important in an NBA that prioritizes pace, especially fast-paced NBA games. But at the same time, you have to pay attention to the fact that he's 35 years old. I know he's gotten a decent amount of rest over the past year and a half. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep this up. I hope he is able to keep this up. My prediction, and let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. My personal prediction for how Carmelo Anthony finishes this year is he's probably going to finish this year as a Portland Trail Blazers. At best, at absolute best, maybe the Blazers become a 7th or 8th seed, and that's it. They may bring him back next year. They may not bring him back next year, but I think Melo should do his best to prove to other teams that he could be a vital part and an important part of any squad. He could still contribute to a squad and give you what you need. I view at this stage Carmelo Anthony as the stretch 4 or small forward equivalent, obviously not to this degree of scoring as Jamal Crawford, in the sense that you could bring him in, he could get you buckets, he's going to be a defensive liability, but if you need scoring, he is an ideal fit for any team. I do have a feeling that a team's going to pick him up and put him on the bench next year, just based off of what we're seeing. If he truly buys in to the Portland Trail Blazers and the Blazers see him as a player that contributes to the locker room, is a great locker room presence, and doesn't hold anyone back from fulfilling their potential, then I see Carmelo Anthony being able to play for at least another 2 years. But that is probably the best case scenario, and I'm just happy to see him progressing in a positive direction. At the same time, it's only been 6 games, so we still have a lot left to see. Let me know in the comment section down below, how do you think Carmelo is going to finish his career off? Do you think he's going to re-sign with the Portland Trail Blazers, or do you think that this is his last year, or is he even going to get cut in a month or two?